She tried to destroy my marriage and smiled as she did it. For 3 years, she clawed at my life in secret, and now she's dead, and suddenly, I'm expected to cry for her. Him, all of them. But grief isn't something you owe, not to a woman who spent years trying to erase you. Welcome to Flame Fate Chronicles, where every betrayal echoes louder than silence, and not all ghosts deserve a eulogy. Tonight's story isn't about a broken woman. It's about a mother who stayed, a wife who endured, and a survivor who said, "Enough." This is the silence I owe no one. And it begins with the kind of whisper that never leaves your bones. They say most secrets are loud in the beginning, but this one arrived quietly, almost tenderly, a ping from my phone. Tammy's name. I hadn't spoken to her in months. "Hey, I just heard something and I thought of you immediately. Marla passed away. I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" I blinked. I read the message again. Marla passed away. The woman who spent 3 years sleeping with my husband while I made dinners, packed school lunches, and folded his socks. The same woman who once told me to my face that I smelled like desperation and cheap detergent. Dead? I sat on the edge of the tub, toothbrush in hand, and just stared at the message. Funny, I thought I'd feel something, but there was nothing. No rage, no satisfaction, no relief, just stillness. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I opened the door and peeked down the hall. The baby was still asleep, and my son was building a fortress out of cereal boxes and action figures. I walked to the bedroom and stood in front of the mirror. The same mirror Marla once insulted me in front of, when she ambushed me outside Jason's office building 2 years ago. "Do you really think he wants this?" she spat. "Look at you. You're pathetic. He stays for your kids, not you." I had stood frozen then, clutching my car keys like they were some kind of weapon. But I didn't say a word. Not then. Not until that night, when Jason finally admitted it. The affair, the late nights, the hidden phone, the 3 years of lies. And then the truth that burned worse than the cheating. His family had known all along. His mother, his sister, even his cousin who toasted at our wedding. They knew, and they said nothing. I stayed. Don't ask me why. Maybe for the kids. Maybe because I was too shattered to imagine a life outside the wreckage. Or maybe because I wanted to prove that I could rebuild something from the ashes they left me in. It was never the same. It still isn't. But I did what I had to. Jason begged, sobbed, said Marla meant nothing, that she was a ghost from the past who confused him. Yet he somehow found the time to keep confusing himself with her in hotel rooms and quiet corners of our city for 3 years. Now she was actually a ghost, and I still felt nothing. The door creaked open. Jason peeked in. "Hey," he said carefully, as if I might combust. "Tammy messaged me too. About Marla." I looked at him, brushing mascara onto lashes that still felt too heavy from the life I'd lived. He lingered in the doorway. "You're probably not sad," he said quietly. I laughed, not out of amusement, but disbelief. I turned to him. "If she had won, if you had left me and built a life with her, and I was the one who died, would you expect her to cry for me?" Jason didn't respond. Instead, he looked down, then back up like he wanted to say more, but didn't. The silence between us wasn't new. It had moved in long ago, made itself comfortable, rearranged the furniture in our lives. "Right," he mumbled, and disappeared down the hall. The baby stirred in the monitor. I scooped her up, kissed her cheek, and whispered, "You'll never beg a man for loyalty, not in my house." I turned my phone over, screen down. No calls, no replies, just a quiet understanding in my gut. I didn't owe Marla a reaction, not grief, not tears, not even acknowledgement, because forgiveness doesn't mean erasing the pain. Sometimes it just means no longer letting the person who hurt you live rent-free in your chest. And That is its own kind of peace. I used to think betrayal was loud, like screaming matches in the kitchen, like doors slamming, like broken dishes on tile. But when I found out Jason was cheating, it wasn't like that at all. It was quiet, subtle, like the hum of an air conditioner you don't realize is broken until the room is suffocating. It started with a text, one I wasn't meant to see. A message from Am, nothing explicit, just a simple, same hotel, same room. I remember the way my chest sank, like my body already knew what my brain didn't want to admit. He had gone out that night, said he was running payroll at the office. I had tucked the kids in, lit a candle, and watched old reruns to stay awake for him. And the whole time he was with her. I confronted him the next morning. No theatrics, just truth. I asked him straight, "Are you sleeping with someone else?" Jason froze. That split second of hesitation was the answer. Then came the confession, choppy, hesitant. Her name's Marla. We used to date in college. Her parents didn't approve. We lost touch, but she reached out a few years ago. 3 years ago. While I was in labor with our daughter. While we were planning our anniversary trip. While I was up at 3 a.m. feeding the baby, and he said he was just tired from work. 3 years of lies. But what really gutted me wasn't the affair. It was who she was. Marla wasn't just any woman. She was his first love, the one his family loved, the one his mother used to mention when we were dating, always with that wistful, disapproving sigh, the one that got away. Except she didn't get away. She came back, and everyone welcomed her like she belonged. No one told me, no one warned me. Not his sister, not his mom, not even his cousin who cried tears of joy at our wedding, but apparently also knew Jason was spending nights with Marla, while I was pregnant with our second child. And Marla? She wasn't just having an affair. She wanted to win. She showed up once, bold as daylight, outside Jason's office, cornered me in the parking lot. "You really think he'd pick you if he wasn't stuck with a mortgage and 2 brats?" she hissed. "You smell like diapers and regret. You're not even his type." I remember blinking at her, stunned. I wasn't scared. I was offended not just by her audacity, but by how easily she stripped me of my humanity. Like I was a placeholder in her love story. I went home, held my kids tighter, and stared at my reflection in the mirror. That night, I asked Jason one question. "Did you ever love me? Or was I just convenient?" He cried. He begged. He said it meant nothing, that he was confused, that she made him feel young again, all the cliches. And yet, I stayed. Why? Because walking away didn't feel like freedom. Not then. It felt like defeat, like handing her the victory. So I made a different choice. We went to counseling. We set rules. He cut off contact, deleted everything, changed jobs, changed numbers. We started over, with a therapist who said things like, "You can rebuild, but it won't be the same house." She was right. Our love became transactional, practical, like 2 people sharing a life, not a heart. Some days it worked. Most days, it was just survival. But I survived. And now? Now the woman who lit the match is gone. Dead. It feels like an echo in the walls, one I can't stop hearing. That night after the news, I couldn't sleep. Jason was already out cold, snoring like nothing had changed. I sat in the hallway, barefoot, my back against the wall, and scrolled through my phone. I found a picture. One I had taken of Jason holding our newborn daughter the day she came home. His smile looked real. Was it? Or was he already thinking about her then? Sometimes I wonder if I imagined everything the way he used to look at me, touch me, need me. Because the man who cheated, he wasn't a stranger. He was the man who once whispered, "I'd never hurt you." Turns out, lies don't need volume to destroy you. Sometimes, they whisper. just like the message that started it all. Marla passed away. Grief has a sound. It's not always sobbing. Sometimes it's the way someone clears their throat before telling you something life-altering, or the way the air shifts when the news arrives. For me, it was a text. For Jason, it was a name he hadn't heard spoken in a while, spoken out loud at least. He was making coffee when I told him. "Tammy messaged me," I said, not looking up from the baby's bottle I was prepping. "Marla died." The clink of the spoon against the cup stopped mid-stir. "What?" he whispered, like he didn't hear me the first time. "Marla passed away. A few days ago, apparently. I don't know the details." He set the spoon down, slowly, like his body was on delay, still catching up to his brain. "How?" he asked. Not when or where. Just how, as if understanding the logistics might dull the blade of it. I shrugged. Tammy didn't say. Silence stretched between us. "She was 34, he murmured. "That's young." I kept my eyes on the milk bottle. "Yeah." Then he said it what he was really thinking. "Well, you're probably not sad." I looked up, our eyes locked. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation wrapped in casual detachment. And I responded before I even knew what I was going to say. "If you had left me for her, if she had won and then I died, would you expect her to cry for me?" He blinked, stunned. For once, he didn't have a comeback. I walked past him and placed the bottle beside the baby, who was babbling softly in her bassinet. My heart wasn't racing, my hands weren't shaking. I felt calm, not cold clear. Jason disappeared into the bedroom without a word. 10 minutes later, I heard the front door open. I peeked out the window and watched him pace down the porch steps, phone already pressed to his ear. He looked tense, distracted, like a man chasing closure. He left me with a crying toddler and a screaming baby to make a private phone call to Marla's brother-in-law, a man he hadn't spoken to in years. Not a cousin, not a family friend, a brother-in-law. That was who he needed to talk to about her death. Not his wife, not the woman still mending the holes she didn't tear in the first place. That was when it hit me. Even in death, she was more important in that moment. I stood at the window, arms crossed, watching my husband lean against the porch railing like he was the one grieving a spouse. And I thought, isn't this supposed to get under my skin? Because it did, but not in the way it used to, not with fury, not with jealousy, not even betrayal. Just a deep, quiet confirmation. He never really stopped loving her. Maybe not in the way he loved me, whatever that even meant anymore, but in that untouchable, golden, college sweetheart kind of way, the we were meant to be, but the world got in the way kind of love, a story that had no ending. Until now. He came back inside after 20 minutes. I was changing diapers with one hand and microwaving oatmeal with the other. He didn't say anything about the call. I didn't ask. Instead, I turned to him and said, "The baby pooped through her pajamas again. Can you grab a clean set from the drawer?" He nodded, quiet, distant, a man carrying 2 lives inside his chest, one with me and one he buried today without a funeral. We carried on, as usual, because what else was there to do? I wasn't about to stage a scene. I wasn't about to make this about me, not in front of our kids, not again. But I won't lie and say it didn't sting. He chose to process this with someone else. Because despite the therapy, despite the promises, despite the forgiveness, there are parts of him I'll never reach, parts that belong to a woman who hated me and died, never knowing what peace looked like. And somehow, I'm supposed to mourn her? No, I'll save my tears for people who loved me. Jason didn't speak much that night. He helped get the kids down, barely reacting when the baby threw her spoonful of carrots on his shirt. He didn't complain when our oldest asked him to read the same story 3 times. He just went through the motions, mechanical, distant, like a man walking through fog, hoping to find something that's already gone. I gave him space, not out of grace, but out of clarity, because I'd spent years making room for his feelings. I was done bending myself into silence to accommodate his chaos. After the kids were asleep, I folded laundry in the living room. Socks, onesies, a shirt of his that still had Marla's lipstick stain in the collar that I never told him I found. He emerged from the bedroom, phone in hand. I'm gonna step outside for a bit. I need to call someone. I didn't ask who. He didn't offer. But I already knew. Marla's brother-in-law, again. Or someone connected to her. Someone who could help him understand what happened. Fill in the blanks. Ease the guilt. He didn't even kiss my forehead or say, "Be right back." Just grabbed his hoodie and left like it was any other night. I stood by the kitchen counter, watching the shadows stretch through the curtains as the porch light flickered on. I could see him out there, pacing slowly, hand on his hip, talking in low tones. I imagined the words. Was she sick? Did she suffer? When's the funeral? Maybe even, I wish I'd called her back. It's strange what betrayal teaches you, not just about your partner, but about yourself. You learn to read silences like language. You learn that the person who breaks you may also expect you to help them heal. You learn that some apologies aren't for the pain caused, but for the timing of the fallout. I poured myself a glass of water and sat down at the kitchen table. I thought about the last time I saw Marla. It was at the grocery store. She walked past me like I was invisible, designer sunglasses perched on her head, that smug little smile playing on her lips. She looked at my kids, then back at me, and said, "Still playing house, I see." I'd smiled back. "Still playing mistress?" She didn't like that, but she didn't retaliate either. Maybe because she didn't expect me to have bite left. That was a year ago. And now? Now she was gone. And I was still here, holding a household together like duct tape on a sinking boat. Except I wasn't sinking anymore. I was floating, bruised but afloat. Jason came back inside after a while. His face was pale, eyes red. I didn't say a word. He grabbed a beer from the fridge, sat across from me. The silence between us wasn't uncomfortable. It was loud. He finally broke it. She had an aneurysm, instant, in her sleep. I nodded. She didn't suffer, he added, as if that was supposed to make me feel something. I sipped my water. Neither did I, not all at once. Mine was slow. He looked down, shame crawling across his face. "Do you want to go to the funeral?" I asked, my voice even. "No," he said too quickly. It wouldn't be right." "For who, her or me?" He hesitated. "Exactly." Jason rubbed the back of his neck. "I just needed to know how she died, that's all." But that wasn't all, not even close. He needed closure, he needed absolution. And he wasn't going to get it from her, which meant he was looking to me. But I had nothing left to give, not this time. Later, after he fell asleep, I sat on the edge of our bed. I looked at the shape of him under the covers. The same man who promised me forever, who cried when our daughter was born, who held me while I grieved my mother's passing. The same man who let another woman tell me I wasn't good enough and never stepped in to stop her. And yet somehow, I was expected to care that she was gone. No, I didn't hate Marla. I just didn't owe her anything. Not now, not ever. Jason's mother showed up unannounced the next day with a lasagna. That was her thing, casserole-based condolences, delivered with a soft pat on the shoulder and too much unsolicited advice. "Oh, sweetie," she said as I opened the door, her arms full. "I just thought you could use something warm." I didn't invite her in, she invited herself. She breezed past me into the kitchen, chatting like we were long-lost friends, rather than in-laws bound by betrayal. "I heard about Marla," she said softly, placing the dish on the counter. "So tragic, so young." I busied myself with a bottle drying on the rack. "Yeah. She was always so vibrant. Remember her laugh?" I didn't answer, because I didn't remember her laugh. I remembered her venom, her smug little smirk, her perfume that lingered on Jason's shirt like a warning. Jason's mom sighed. "I know this might be awkward," she continued, "but she was part of our lives too, Elena. You have to understand." I turned then, slowly, and I looked her dead in the eyes. "She tried to sabotage my wedding," I said calmly. "She slept with my husband. She called me names I wouldn't repeat in front of a priest. What exactly do I have to understand?" She blinked, There was a flicker of guilt, one she didn't bother to disguise. "She was hurting," she said, like that made it okay. She always believed Jason would come back to her. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out, bitter, hollow. Well, he didn't, and now she's gone, and somehow I'm still the one expected to make room for her pain? She shifted uncomfortably, adjusting her purse like it gave her dignity. "I'm not saying you have to cry for her, Elena, but maybe have a little grace. It's a sad situation." "You know what's sad?" I asked. "That not one person in this family warned me. Not one of you stood up for me while she tried to tear my life apart." Her mouth opened, then closed. Silence. Finally, something honest between us. "I stayed for the kids," I said. "Not because I thought this family deserved me. You all made it very clear whose side you were on." Her eyes dropped to the floor. "I never wanted this," she whispered. "No," I said. "You just let it happen." She nodded slowly, then gathered her things. As she reached the door, she stopped. "For what it's worth, I am sorry." I didn't respond, because sorry, at this point, was a band-aid on a wound that scarred years ago. She left the lasagna. I dumped it down the garbage disposal an hour later. I didn't need her food. I needed her to have defended me when it mattered. Jason came home later, noticed the smell. "Your mom dropped off dinner," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "That was nice." I didn't answer. He walked to the kitchen, peeked in the trash, then paused. "Elena, did you throw it out?" "Yes." There was a beat of silence. Then he said, "She meant well." "No," I said. "She meant to clear her conscience." Jason didn't argue, because he knew I was right. That night, I lay awake while he snored beside me, the weight of his body pulling the sheets to his side. I thought about all the times I stayed quiet, all the times I let his family take up space in my home and pretend I was just the babysitter with a ring. I thought about Marla, how she probably died thinking she was still his great love. And maybe she was. But that didn't mean I had to mourn her. Because I wasn't mourning a woman. I was mourning the version of myself who waited for these people to love her. And she deserved better. I used to think healing was a destination. That if I just waited long enough, stayed strong long enough, I'd wake up one day and not feel the cracks anymore. But healing, it turns out, is a war. And some days, I lose. I sat on the bedroom floor after the kids went down, knees pulled to my chest, surrounded by folded laundry and the hum of the baby monitor. Jason was in the den, on another one of his long, quiet stares into nothing. I opened my journal. Not the leather one I keep on the nightstand, the real one. The one I hide in the back of my closet, the one I don't censor. I flipped to a blank page and wrote, "Today, I realized I'm not sad about her death, and I'm not guilty for not being sad. But I am tired of being expected to feel something for people who wouldn't cry for me." I paused, then added, "I didn't survive betrayal to become a vessel for someone else's guilt. If he wants to mourn her, he can, but not in my presence, not in my silence, not anymore." I closed the journal slowly, my breath catching in my throat. It wasn't anger that gripped me anymore, it was grief. But not for Marla, and not even for Jason. I was grieving me, the version of me before I found out the truth. Before 3 years of lies unraveled my world like a ball of string caught in a storm, before therapy appointments and whisper fights in the kitchen, and pretending in front of our kids that we were still okay. I once asked my therapist, "What does it mean to forgive someone you still sleep beside but don't trust?" She replied, "It means you've chosen survival over resentment, but survival doesn't always equal healing." God, she was right, because I've survived. I've played the role. I've been the doting mom, the supportive wife, the peaceful homemaker, but I'm still bleeding under it all. And the hardest part? No one sees it, because I don't show it. Jason knocked gently on the bedroom door. "Hey," he said, poking his head in. "You okay?" "Fine." He stepped in, sat at the edge of the bed. "I feel like you haven't said much." I looked at him. Because he wanted a reaction. Maybe he thought I was cold. Maybe he wanted to see me cry so he could believe I still felt something. "I've said everything I needed to," I told him. "You just stopped hearing it." His face twisted. "That's not fair." "Oh, and what's fair?" I said, rising to my feet. "Is it fair that I had to carry our family while you chased your past? That I had to explain to our therapist why I stayed when everyone else would have left? That I had to hold in my rage for her while being asked to show grace now that she's gone?" He opened his mouth, closed it. I softened not because he deserved it, but because I needed to breathe. "I'm not heartless, Jason," I said. "But I'm not a martyr either." He nodded slowly. "I didn't expect you to cry," he whispered. "No," I said. "You expected me to make it easier for you to cry." Later that night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror brushing my teeth. I looked at my reflection. She looked different. Not older, not sadder, just stripped. Like all the roles had peeled away, and what was left was the woman beneath the betrayal. Raw, but real. And for the first time in years, I whispered to myself, "You're still here." And that's enough. Jason made French toast the next morning. He always did that when he didn't know what to say, cooked like it could fill the space between us better than words. I watched him move around the kitchen, trying to appear normal. Cracking eggs, dusting cinnamon, checking the toast a little too often. The kids were bouncing in and out of the room. The baby babbled in her high chair. The air smelled like sugar and tension. I sat quietly at the table, sipping coffee, waiting. He placed a plate in front of me, then sat across with his own. "I didn't sleep well," he said, eyes fixed on the toast. I didn't respond. I kept thinking about her, about how it ended. Still, I said nothing. He finally looked up. "I don't expect you to understand. I know she hurt you. I know I did." My fork scraped the plate. Deliberate, controlled. "But I did love her, Elena. Not like I love you, but it was real." There it was, the truth. The truth I always suspected, tucked inside apologies and justifications, finally unwrapped. He waited for me to react. A gasp, a slap, a scream. But all I said was, "Thank you." His brow furrowed. For what? For finally admitting it. For not making me feel crazy anymore. Jason set down his fork. "You're not crazy. You never were." "No," I said, "just married to a man who was in love with someone else while pretending to be devoted to me." He sighed. I thought I could separate it, keep the past in its box and the present in its lane. But when she died, the box opened. "And what did you find inside?" I asked. "Regret?" He shook his head slowly. "Shame." That surprised me. I stared at him, this man who had once promised to protect my heart, and instead handed it to another woman behind my back. "I'm not angry anymore," I said quietly. "I'm just done carrying it." He leaned forward. "Are we okay?" It was such a simple question, but so complicated. Were we okay? We weren't fighting. We weren't distant in the way we used to be. But okay? No. We were functional. We were present. We were co-parents. Survivors of a storm we both barely made it out of. But okay? That was a stretch. I didn't answer him. Not because I didn't know, but because I didn't want to lie. That night, after the house was quiet, I stood by the window and watched the wind push leaves across the porch. Jason came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist like he used to. It didn't feel bad. But it didn't feel like love either. It felt like familiarity, like muscle memory. He kissed my neck and whispered, "Thank you for staying." I didn't say anything, because some silences are safer than the truth. Some silences are all you have left. Tammy texted me again. On Saturday, while they gathered to honor Marla's memory, I took the kids to the beach. It was windy, but they didn't care. They ran along the shore like their little legs couldn't keep up with their joy. Jason came too. He didn't mention the memorial, didn't check his phone, just sat beside me on the sand, watching the kids with a look I couldn't quite read. "What?" I asked. He shrugged. "Nothing. Just this. It's nice. It's real," I said. He nodded. "Do you ever think about her?" I asked, surprising even myself. He took a deep breath. "Sometimes. Less now. It's strange. I think I'm mourning what she represented more than who she was." "And what was that?" I asked. Jason hesitated. "A version of myself I didn't have to be responsible in." I didn't say anything, because I understood. I really did. But I also knew that the version of me he had me, the wife, the mother, the woman who stayed, was someone he couldn't reach in the same way anymore. Not because I didn't love him, but because something inside me had changed permanently. That night, after the kids were in bed, Jason sat beside me on the couch. He took my hand. "I know you didn't get a choice in any of this," he said quietly. "And I'm sorry." I looked at him. Really looked. He meant it. But sorry was a fragile thing. It didn't rebuild what it broke. It just acknowledged the damage. "I know," I whispered. And that was enough for now. Before bed, I opened my journal again. They had their goodbye today. I had mine years ago. Grief isn't always for people. It's for illusions. And today, I let another one go. I never planned on writing publicly, but there's a strange compulsion that comes after betrayal. This need to be heard, even if your voice shakes. So, one night after the kids were asleep and Jason had dozed off on the couch, I opened my laptop and created a blog. I called it The Loyal Phoenix. It felt fitting, something that had been burned down and still had the audacity to rise. My first post was short, raw, unfiltered. Grief is complicated, especially when it's for someone who hated you. Especially when that someone tried to dismantle your life while smiling at your children's faces. I'm not grieving her. I'm grieving the version of myself who kept shrinking to make everyone else more comfortable. I'm grieving the silence I used as armor. I'm grieving the years I spent wondering if I was enough, when the truth is, he wasn't. I didn't expect anyone to read it, but people did. Women, men, strangers from around the world who'd been cheated on, lied to, gaslit, humiliated. People who stayed, people who left. They commented, they emailed, they thanked me. And slowly, I realized something. Maybe my healing didn't have to be private. Maybe my story wasn't just mine, it was ours. Jason found the blog a week later. He didn't say much at first, just read post after post, quiet in the corner of the living room with his phone in hand. When he finished, he looked at me. "You really went through hell," he said softly. "I still am," I replied. He nodded. "I'm sorry. Again." And I believed him. But that didn't mean everything was magically fixed. Because healing isn't a return to what was. It's building something new from what's left. One evening, I stood by the window, watching our daughter smear peanut butter on the dog. Our son was laughing so hard he nearly tipped over his chair. Jason walked in, took one look and said, "We're raising chaos." I smiled. Beautiful, sticky chaos. And in that moment, I realized we weren't perfect, but we were real. And real is enough. I still think about Marla sometimes. Not with anger, not with pity, but with clarity. She wanted my life so badly, she tried to destroy it. But in the end, she gave me something else. A wake-up call. A reminder that being chosen means nothing if you're not being cherished. A reason to rise. I ended my most recent blog post with this. I don't mourn the woman who hated me. I mourn the version of me who let that hatred define my worth. And in her silence, I found my voice. And for the first time, in a long time, I believe every word. Thank you for listening to Flame Fate Chronicles. If you've ever been expected to grieve someone who hurt you, this story is your permission to stay silent. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional tales where pain meets power and silence speaks volumes.